Hey guys, Rob from Georgia here with you, aka VHS82 apostrophe, with episode 7 of my ongoing X-Files series, looking at episode entitled Ghost in the Machine. First aired October 29th, 93. It is the Halloween episode, the first of many to come down the pike. Directed by one Jerrold Freedman, who will go on to direct another episode, Born Again, episode 22, I think, and is known for a lot of work, man. But the one movie that stuck out to me in his filmography was Borderline from 1980, starring not only, but the likes of Charles Bronson, Ed Harris, Wilford Brimley, Charles Cyphers. You get the picture, man. It's quite a cast. Returning guest Jerry Hardin as Deep Throat, his second appearance. Wayne Duvall will play Jerry. He is a friend of Mulder from back in the days of the behavioral science days. They worked together, and you kind of get the idea that maybe Jerry sort of was riding the coattails of Mulder for quite a bit. You kind of see that in this episode a little bit. Rob LaBelle is our main. In terms of guest cast, probably our protagonist. He is the creator of this company, which he starts off in a garage. This company, the software company called Erisco. And so, but of course, like many companies, it gets bigger and beyond his ability to control mostly the people who work within the scope of that company, who, for their own self-interest, and supposedly the interests of the company financially. Ultimately, there's creative differences, and he is basically pushed aside for a vision, an alternative vision, which, ironically enough, looks to cut out this program, this COS, which is the Central Operating System, which is the AI component here that begins to self-learn and take on sort of a life of its own, I guess, and starts to make decisions in terms of its own self-interest. It's interesting, this episode. It comes at a time, of course, in '84, Terminator will splash the screens. I saw that as a kid. In 91, of course, Judgment Day will come out, and then by 99, of course, The Matrix will hit. But in between, you're starting to have this conversation via film and TV in terms of what is this thing called AI, and if it ever, as Scully sort of mentions along the way in this episode, if it ever comes to be, is this something that, and I'm asking this, can we manage it? Now, this episode is extremely relevant for the moment, because if you keep your ear to news at all, we know that there has been a bit of a controversy revolving around a program, an AI program. Elon Musk and many others have written letters to not do away with it, but scale it back, because, as they have said publicly, they are extremely frightened that if this thing becomes self-aware, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when it will decide that mankind, in almost a Terminator / Matrix style, is this a self-fulfilled prophecy that is coming? I mean, it's interesting that we're having these conversations right now, yet in the 80s and early 90s, this conversation was being played out on the big screen and on the small screen. And yet now here we are in 2023 dealing with the very real nature and issue of artificial intelligence. You hear stories, man. You hear stories. Amazon delivery guy thinks he hears some negative remarks with a racial component, maybe coming from the ring, key ring or whatever on the doorbell ring, whatever, and alerts Amazon. It's a smart home. It's an Amazon smart home. Then decides to basically shut the home down, lock the guy out of his own home. Now, ultimately, we find out that the guy apparently wasn't even home when the delivery guy. So it's just the nature of if you live in a smart environment, how quickly can that be used or turned against you? Now we're talking about people, but what if this intelligence ever got to the point where it becomes self-aware? What then? And where is our place in this, as Huxley called it, the brave new world that we are ever so quickly wading into? It's interesting concept to talk about and think about, and a little scary when you consider some of the real life implications. People from other places being able to just shut your car down, shut your home down, you literally being locked out of the system. And those are scary things to think about, especially if they come as a mistake. How do you rectify that kind of thing? It's interesting. But this episode basically follows Mulder gets a call by his buddy Jerry. They've got a murder, a death at this company, Arisco. And there are a lot of weird implications to this murder. The guy Jerry this is his one big break to really try to absolve himself from just past mistakes or whatever. And so he calls Mulder because he knows Mulder. He knows, although he is taking advantage of Mulder and in the worst way at times as well. But Mulder and Scully, of course, the rest of the episode is just the implication, a conversational piece about this AI and it becoming self-aware. And the creator, Brad Wilczek, which, by the way, played a small role in New Nightmare, Jack Frost, the horror film, and Fido. Interesting. Anyways, so he's been sort of, kicked out of the system, and yet he still has some means of control. Of course, he becomes the number one suspect for Mulder and Scully, and it comes as a result of realizing that the voice pattern the computer uses and his voice are one and the same. And so the implication is that perhaps Brad, as a result of basically getting kicked out of the company, is trying to take it back, or at least exact revenge on those who have hurt him. And we come to find out that that's not the case at all. We come to find out that this central operating system is becoming self-aware, and it becomes a race against time. Now, there is also the Defense Department has a mole in this company. Of course, would you expect anything different? And they see the implications, real life implications of being able to use this kind of artificial intelligence in war. Of course, why not? Anything that makes killing better and easier. And so you kind of got that working under the surface as well. And we'll find out who the mole is by the end of the episode. And so there becomes a race against time. Ultimately, when you're racing towards that, and Scully and Mulder are at the high rise. Brad, of course, is there trying to get a hold of things. There is a certain death along the way. I'll just leave that alone in case you haven't seen this in forever or going to look at it for the first time. But there is a neat sequence involving Scully in the air shaft trying to get from this point to another point because the operating system is working against them. Mulder is attemptably trying to deliver a virus to the system, which Brad has agreeably created while he is now in custody. I might have skipped over something, sorry. But he has created a virus, but it is up to Mulder and Scully to deliver this virus by getting in to the system and delivering it to the system. And of course, again, you have, other things in your way that are trying to undermine their effort, mainly this mole for the Defense Department. But anyways, the sequence with Scully in the air shaft, it becomes quite harrowing, actually. The system knows that she's up there and utilizes the fan system in order to basically push her down into the central fan, thus, killing her. She's able to get herself out of that situation and shows up just in the nick of time in order to, at gunpoint, help Mulder deliver the virus, because at that point, the mole has been revealed and they are able, again, to deliver it ultimately, and thus seemingly crushing, destroying this AI piece. In the end, leaves it a little open-ended. I'll just leave it at that, I think. And so interesting episode, extremely relevant, I think, for our times. Interesting how people were, in film, you just think, in film, people always seem to be ahead of the curve in dealing with things as conversational pieces about, if this ever comes to light, what are we going to do about it? How are we going to approach it? And should we even be messing with this stuff? Well, it's 2023 now, and it is becoming a very real issue to contend with. Unfortunately, we're at a point now in society where I'm not sure how real this conversation really is. And I don't know. It'll be interesting to see where we head in the coming weeks, months, years to this. But Ghost in the Machine, what did you think? Relevant to the time we live in? I think so. Another great episode, man, and they're only going to get better as we go. Next up, I believe is I want to say it's Ice. Yeah, it's Ice. And then we leave disc 2. And so that is what's coming up. As always, appreciate your support. Thank you for viewing. Thank you for commenting. Thank you for hitting that like button. Thank you for subbing if you haven't subbed. Appreciate it. It all helps in the end, and it makes it for an extremely fun hobby. We always end these things off, of course, with Go Bills.